right, hi everybody. My name is Bryan Winter. I own a board game store here in town called I'm Board Games and Family Fun. We'll start with a little bit of background about me. I started retailing games back in the 80s when I was in college. From there, I was game designer for several years. I've actually made my living sitting in those chairs where you guys are. At one point in the 90s, I was the most prolific collectible card game designer in the world. I've done a couple of board games, things like that. After that market got soft, I took my skills, such as they were, and I was in marketing for about 12, 14 years. And I used to joke that I'm working in a marketing department of a health insurance company. That's 2 strikes. So I went back to what I loved, which is retailing games. And about 6 years ago, I opened I'm Board. If you do not know the Madison area board, board gaming store community, I opened the 5th store in town in a not very big town, and everyone said I was crazy. But my thought was that the board gaming community was not being served as much as I thought they could, and I so far it's been a good call. If you haven't made it out there, we're about 15 minutes to the west of this location, so you're all certainly welcome to come on by. We certainly specialize in the board game stuff. So with that, I'm just here to talk to you about getting your stuff in stores. Now I'm going to just take a quick read of the room. Who here wants to be a game designer? Okay, for you at home, everyone raise their hands. Who here wants to run a company? Okay, just a couple, all right? The moment that you hit the button to print or the Kickstarter or something like that, you are no longer a game designer. You are now the owner of a board game company or just a company. And with that comes costs, fulfillment, responsibilities, things like that, okay? Know that going in. That's the first piece of advice that I have for you. Now, I'm going to start. I don't have really anything physically prepared. I don't have slides or anything like that. I thought this would hopefully be a little bit more of a conversational thing. But first of all, I'm just going to kind of give you my take on what you can be expecting. Now, who here is hoping to get their stuff onto Kickstarter? Just a few of you. Okay, probably most of you. That's okay. I'm not afraid of Kickstarter. If you asked me 4 years ago, is Kickstarter a problem? I would have gone, maybe. Now, it's part of how we work, right? So I get it. If I was in your shoes, I would have used it, without a problem. But I will talk about what I hope to see if you want to get your Kickstarter thing into my store. How many people are hoping to get into distribution? All of you, I hope. Okay.
Your own or have someone else distribute it?
Good question. How many people want to distribute their games themselves? You do. Okay. How many game stores are there in the United States alone?
I don't want to do it for game stores.
Okay. How do you want to do it? Amazon?
Yeah, online.
Online. Okay. All right. How will you advertise? I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm just.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, one of the games I've got is it's for entrepreneurs.
Okay.
It's not really a traditional board
Sure.
game.
So you're going to specialty markets with a specialty product. Excellent. Okay. Now, who knows who the game distributors are? Who doesn't know? Okay. Did you know that one of the major ones is right here in town, about 15 minutes away from here? 5 minutes from my store. They're ACD Distribution. Know who they are. ACD, Alliance, Peach Street, Southern, GTS. Those are the bigger ones. There's others too. How many people think? Okay, let's start. Let's back up a little bit more. How many people have their game all ready to go, and they are really excited, and they want to push a button, and they've hired a graphic designer, and they've got all the stuff that they're waiting to go with? Nobody. Good. Okay. You all right? Good. Awesome. You're ahead of the game. It's in a publisher's hands, hopefully someday. How many people are hoping to get their stuff picked up by a publisher? All of you. Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. That's a hard thing to do. I am fortunate. The Madison area has a lot of published board gamers, board game designers here, and I'm also fortunate because my store sort of features the board gaming side. A lot of those folks have play tested and sort of weaned their games at my location. So I've had Role Player. If you've heard of Role Player, I was playing that game 2 years ago when Keith was just kind of testing it out. Kane Klenko, who has made a pretty good name of himself with Renegade Games, is from this area. There's a lot of board game in the area and surrounding, and JT with Captain's Dead. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. I have a game and I want to make sure that it gets made, pushed, published, things like that. So really I'm going to be talking about for you folks who are trying to make the thing yourself and get it into my store. Okay, and you're either going to do that through Kickstarter, through selling it to me directly, or through one of the distributors. Okay, the distributors are the hardest part, I would say, because they are inundated with requests for new. I got the best game in my back pocket. Well, that's the remote right here, and they go, yeah, I'll put you in the pile with the other ones. Okay, there is, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it right now. There is a glut of board games out there right now. There is an absolute glut. Estimates, I think, and excuse me, I have a bit of a cold I'm fighting, so I'm going to be sucking on some cough drops. Estimates are something like 3,000, 3,500 different SKUs were released last year. Everyone know what an SKU is? Good. It's a thing to sell. So now that's going to include all the X-Wing ships that came out. And you are up against thousands, literally, of other competition. Okay, who here is just doing board games, and who's doing? Is it all board games? Is it some card games, role-playing games, minis games? Shout them out. Mostly board games, card games. Okay, so traditional games that we're gonna not necessarily the minis and all that kind of stuff. Okay, all right, and that's fine. It's all good. Okay, so how many people have a sense of how pricing works? Good. Kind of a bit. All right, good. So if I am selling a game for, we're going to use nice fat round numbers. If I'm selling a game for $100 at my store, I've probably purchased that game for how much? 50, 55, 60 at the absolute worst, right? The distributor has bought it for 40.
Really?
Yeah. They
don't do a full
they get no, they get maybe 10%. Okay? So, and you have to pay. Okay, so everyone's got to get paid, right? You got to pay yourself. Don't do it. If you want to make so a lot of this I'm going to talk about today is just sort of convincing you guys to understand the value of your product. All right, and I've got a couple of whipping boys today. My first whipping boy is Gloomhaven. Okay, who knows what Gloomhaven is? Everyone raise their hands. A lot of people who don't know. Gloomhaven is a very successful, very good board game. It's a great board game. It's a fantasy dungeon crawly co-op game. It's got some Euro gamey elements. It's awesome. Comes in a box about yay big, and it's wonderful. And it is, in my personal opinion, a poster child for a devalued product. Because when the creators originally sold it, they said $90. And this much cardboard and paper and plastic, $90. And that game I could easily sell for a manufactured suggested retail price, MSRP, $150 to $200. But 90, okay? Now, what has that person done? They have told the world this game is worth $90, okay? And I will happily sell it for $90, provided I can buy it for 45 or 50 or something like that, okay? And that has created, it was a huge hit, massive hit, deserved hit. But it's time to print. Guess who doesn't have any money? The guy who made that game. So now he's got to go back to the Kickstarter well to do the reprint. Okay, this time we'll do it for 120. No. Why? Why did he do it that way? Who here knows what Board Game Geek is? BoardGameGeek.com. Everybody raise their hands. Okay. I love Board Game Geek. I've been a paid member for a long time, 12 years, something like that. Not so much now, or not so much back in the day, but a little bit more now. Board Game Geek has become a little bit more vitriolic. It's a wonderful resource. But the folks in there can sometimes feel that they're the entire world of board gaming. As well they should. It's people talking about the thing that they love amongst the things that they love. It's the biggest, baddest board gaming clubhouse in the world. I have a very hard piece of truth here. If this is the whole board gaming market, this is Board Game Geek. And no one on that site would believe you if I told them that, would believe me if I told them that. And I think the problem with Gloomhaven was they tried to make a game that would appeal to everyone in this slice, which is fine. There's a market there. There's money to be made from this slice. But I'd like to make money from this slice, right? The whole pie. So one of the stories, and I can't say if it's true or not, is that the reason they priced it that much is because they were afraid that people wouldn't buy it at what it was really valued at, right? And I'm telling you today, if you don't think people will buy your game at the price that your game is worth, don't make your game, okay? That's the beauty of Kickstarter, because you can put it out there and say, it is worth 80 bucks. And people will go, nope. And you go, all right then, I didn't lose any money. That's the wonderful thing about Kickstarter. You don't lose any money. You will absolutely lose money if it funds under and in a way that you did not plan for contingencies, shipping, fulfillment, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so why am I talking about board games in this retail store and I'm talking about pricing? Because value is an important thing. And the thing that brings stuff into my store has to have value for me. Okay? It has to have value for the whole market, for distributors, for online retailers, for yourself. All right? If I can't get a game, Gloomhaven, all right, I've got thousands of people waiting for a copy. Not thousands, dozens. You know, people who, it's, you know, in my head, it's thousands. I've got dozens of people waiting for a copy. People who do not kickstart. People who will not give you your, here's my money, I'll get back to you in a year with your game. And, you know, that there are people, a lot of people don't do that. So they say, hey, I really want that game. And I say, fantastic. You know, I don't take their money either yet. I'm not going to give you your product until I can take your money. Or the other way around. So people come in and they say, can I get this game from you? Maybe, hopefully, someday we will, you know, get in line and we'll wait. We get into this vicious cycle of supply and demand and supply and demand and supply and demand. Now we talk about long tail sales. All right, Zombicide. Who's heard about Zombicide? Cool Mini or not? Huge hit, massive thing. Great, huge, blew up Kickstarter. One of the biggest things in the world. I will tell you today that more copies of Zombicide have sold after the Kickstarter than the Kickstarter, okay? On a big scale. So you think about long tail sales. If you want to get your game out there, we'll put on a show. We can use my dad's barn. My mom will make costumes. We can put on a show. I can make a thing. I can hand it out to the 500 people who want that thing, and I'm done. My show is over. You want your game to be out there forever, right? It probably won't be. There are, you know, not everyone, you know, there's, I can count on probably two hands the games that are still going strong after, you know, Catan, Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, Spiel winners, the things that you know about, more than two hands, but not very many, because 3,000 Things just came out last year. They're nodding their heads, right? Because I embrace the board gaming aspect of our hobby. And not a lot of people do that. And I can't keep up. I want to carry all your stuff. But you got to give me a reason to. Okay? And that reason is, now we get to the meat of it. Here are the reasons I will take your game. Can I get it when everyone else gets it? Is it fairly priced? Can I buy it at a fair price to me, market price, 40 to 50% off, including shipping. Is it on the box? Is the box going to look good on my shelves? Is it something that I can demo without opening a copy? I'll get that in a second. Is it a game that is viable? Is it yet another Zombie Cthulhu game? There's people who buy that stuff all day long, but I'm getting tired of buying it myself. You know, it's just like, how much more Cthulhu can there be? Probably a little bit more. All right? But we'll see. You know, is it another co-op game? There's a lot of co-op games out there right now. You know, things like that. Is it viable? Can I sell it? Am I going to make money from it? I am in a business. My business, the goal of my business is to make money. The goal of your business is to make money. That is what we go into business for. If the goal of your business is to make a cool game that people will want to play, good. But that is a means to an end. The end being profit. Okay? There is a retailer out in California who has a great series of blog posts. And in one of them, he talks about the $100 game. If I buy a game for $100, or if I sell a game for $100, I bought it for $40 or $50 to $60. Then everyone takes a piece. The landlord takes a piece. The electricity bill takes a piece. My employees take a big piece because I got to pay them. I got to buy paper towels. I got to pay wipes. I got to fix those chairs. I got to pay the light bulbs. And at the end of the day, from that $100, hopefully I get to take $8 home to pay my mortgage and feed my kids. That is reality. Okay? So when you look at the value of games, I need to be able to sell that game multiple times. I need to be able to turn that game. Who knows what turns are? Who doesn't know what turns are? Turns are the number of times I can sell that thing in a year. If I have a thing, I want to turn it out the door. I want to bring it in the back door and send it out the front door, turning it through at least 4 times. That's a goal. Now I tell you what, with the market being as inundated as it is right now, that's shifting a lot. I've got games that I can turn 2 times and games that I can turn 8 times. Now I'm not talking about things like Magic the Gathering, you know, where I am just like selling, here's a pack, here's a pack, here's a pack, here's a pack. That is not what I'm talking about. I am talking about things like Sushi Go. Sushi Go, little card game, right, about making a little sushi dinner. If you haven't played it, it's delightful. I can tell you they don't talk about Sushi Go on Board Game Geek. Sushi Go was my #1 game last year. I sold hundreds of copies of Sushi Go. Why? Because these guys. Okay? So, think about who your audience is. Appeal to that audience. Okay, so I'm talking in a lot of generalizations. Who has questions, and we can kind of go from there. Yes?
You said turning a game 4 times a year.
Yes.
Kind of the target. You mean the bigger box board game box?
Generally speaking, yeah, or a section. So let's say, yeah, so if it's a board game, if it's Ticket to Ride, for example, I want to turn Ticket to Ride at least 4 times a year because that makes that piece of my shelf space profitable. And you can really get down into the weeds when it comes to the monetization of your shelves. Okay, if you go to my store, it's about 3,000 square feet. About half of it is selling stuff, and about half of it is game tables and event space and things like that. That event space does not generate a whole lot of direct revenue. All right, I don't charge people to play back there unless it's a charged event or a tournament or something like that. So the front half of the store has to pay for the back half of the store. That means that every one of those little pieces of shelf space has to do double duty for the game space in the back that isn't pulling its weight. All right. So the more times I can turn a thing, the more successful that thing is, the more worthwhile it is to sit on my shelf. If I have an item sitting there and it turns twice a year, or worse, once a year, or not enough times a year, all right, then I am going to be incentivized to replace that with something that will. rotate. Okay? Now, how do you make things turnable? It's a it's not a science, it's an art, right? It's got to be attractive, it's got to be viable, it's got to be interesting, it's got to be beautiful. Everybody judges a book by its cover. Better have a good cover. Hire graphic designers, every single one of you. I was a web designer for many years, part of my marketing gig. I know my way around Photoshop. I can do some pretty nice things. I am not a graphic designer. All right? I can make a logo, and it's a crappy logo. Right? But I can make one. I can put it on all kinds of stuff. Okay, you raised your hand.
You earlier talked about demoing without opening a
Yes.
copy, because I would imagine demoing really helps.
Yes.
Turn games.
Yes, absolutely. So the first question was, what does turns mean? Okay, to go back a bit. What do I mean by demoing? It's called what I call a back of the box demo. Okay, what does that mean? So a back of the box demo is a game where I have an interested customer and I can go over and I can pick up that box. Oh, you might like Mysterium. And I flip over the back, and people always look at the front of the box. I said, let's just turn that box around, because the front of the box is a pretty picture. The back of the box hopefully shows me how I can teach that game. And if you pick up a game of Mysterium or Quirkle or a lot of other ones, Sushi Go, I can show you the picture of the game in action, and I can kind of teach you that game in 5 minutes. I can at least show you, convey to you what this game is and how it works simply by this one picture. If I can do a back of the box demo, aces. All right? So take a look at games and you look at the back of them, even something like Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride has a problem. It's too wordy. There's too much text on the back of that box. All right? If you want to see a really bad example of that, look at Mr. Jack. Mr. Jack is a two-player deduction game. It's awesome. But they've got this same little block of description text in about 8 languages and a tiny little picture in the corner of the game in action. Fortunately, it's a damn good game, right? And it's got a good reputation, because you cannot demo that game. Quirkle is perfect. Quirkle, you pick it up, and there's a game in action, and there's like pieces laying out, and I go, okay, let's pretend that this is my rack. Everyone's played Scrabble, so they know what I'm talking about. So I can take this piece, and I have this piece, and I can put it here. I can score this way in circles, and I can score this way in blue, and oh, look, I made a Quirkle. That's extra points. That's how you play the game. Done. This one's great. Jing! Right? That's what we want. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, anything else before I kind of go on? Yes.
You're talking about designing games for the big market.
Yeah.
This is just the board game geek market.
Yes.
What do you see game designers missing? What are the underserved areas or things you think maybe we could serve better?
You bet. Everyone's got one of these, right? Open up your relative app store on this and look at what's popular in the games. Farmville, SimCity, building, things like that. That is a good, what is popular on your iPhone could be popular as a board game. There's no one answer for this question. But you look at things like, what's a game that came out by Asmodee? I think it was Asmodee. Anyway, it's called Dream Home. Does anyone know what that game is? Look it up. It's adorable. It is a Euro-y set collecting game. Okay, I need to gather things and put them in rows for points. Can't get more Euro than that. Big house, and that's the theme of the game. You have a house, and instead of getting coal and wheat, you're getting living rooms and bird baths, right? And it's still just a set collecting game. You're still just putting things out in rows, and there's rules. You're not allowed to put this card above this card. Well, why? Well, because this is the basement, and there's no basement there yet, so you can't top of the basement. Duh, right? So taking those tried and true tropes, zombies, fantasy, co-op, 18th century Dutch cube pushers, and and whatever, and shifting them into the emerging market. The emerging market is families, moms, young adults, millennials, people who are looking for reasons to turn this off and interact face to face. I get a lot of moms, I get a lot of parents in my store saying, looking for something to get the kids off the screens. I get even more people looking to get themselves off the screens. Okay? As Facebook and all that kind of stuff has evolved in the past 10 years, from this cool toy to part of your daily grind, people are looking for ways to unplug and interact and reconnect. And hey, what do you know? That's my tagline of my store. Unplug, interact, reconnect. Okay? So are there certain themes that are really popular? No, but there's markets. There's, if you take a look at your stereotypical gamer den, game geek store, right? It's appealing to the same folks, and I'm one of those folks, right? Sorry, I am a giant nerd, right? Have been since the 70s. First edition D&D, Starfleet battles. Can't get more nerdy than Starfleet battles. Maybe Car Wars. Okay. But I have grown up, I have a wife, I have a family, I have teenagers, and I don't want to get stereotypical, but my wife is not into that stuff as much as I am, right? But man, she loves Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride is the best game in the world. My mom likes Ticket to Ride. When my mom comes over, my mom likes it, my family likes it, the kids like it, and suddenly multi-generation people are playing a board game. And isn't that interesting? Anecdotally, one of the reasons that I opened my store, and I kind of thought that these markets were not being tapped into, was I was okay. So if you go to my store, and there's nothing wrong. I absolutely want to preface this by saying there is absolutely nothing wrong with a business model of having a sort of nerdcore niche store, right? It's worked for years. It's great. But I thought, hey, there's people out there who are interested in this stuff that may not feel that engaged in the other places. So let's make a game store instead of a gamer store. Okay? So make a game instead of a game instead of a gamer game. Make sense? Right? Why is Monopoly so popular? Because everyone knows it. It's in every closet in the world. But that's the reason. But why is Sorry so popular instead of Parcheesi? It's colorful. It's interesting. It's got cards. It's got stuff. It's got a thing where you can slide. Right? Same as Trouble in Parcheesi. It's all the same stuff. So, yeah.
When you're ready for another question.
I'm ready for another question.
Okay. So it's kind of a two-parter, but Edge, some games show the face of the box in your store.
Yes.
Some will show the edge of the box.
Yes.
My two-part question is, A, how does that get determined?
Mm-hmm.
B, what should be on the edge of a box for a game store?
Thank you, JT. That's an excellent question. It was on my mind to talk about that when we talk about design. The question was, when you go into a game store, you'll see that some games are face out, and some are what we call spine out, the edge of the side of the box. What determines who gets to be faced out, and what should be on that edge so that so it's still attractive, okay? What determines? Several things. A, is it pretty? Does it look cool? Does it have an awesome logo? Does it have a thing going like this? And it's like, oh, is it engaging? That make people want to go, what is this all about? And turn it over. The hardest thing that you got to get people to do is pick up your game. It's not to buy the game. It's to just pick it up in the first place. All right? It's got to have like, what's this all about? Okay? So what determines that? Sometimes it's just me. You know, sometimes it's just my opinion. Sometimes we just have a lot of shelf space right now and we're just kind of going, okay, well that fits, you know, and so it's kind of this little Tetris-y puzzle. Sometimes we're featuring a certain thing or a certain designer. You know, we have a section of Stefan Feld games. We have a section, you know, things like that. We have, my store, and I preface all this by saying this is all stuff that works for my store, not necessarily every store in the world, but we try to get everyone outbound, face out, at least sometime. If it's new, that's a big reason. If it's a new game, it gets face out. We have a new stuff area, but we also try to have the stuff like, you know, out and seeing so people go, oh, because the majority of my customers have been there before and they want to go, oh, that's new, pick it up. What do you want to have on your side? The logo, prominently. Pretend, okay, go to the library and look, go to a bookstore, or to a comic book shop and look at the graphic novels. And what are the ones that make you go, huh? I can see the logo, I can read the logo. If you've got a long horizontal logo, if your logo is nice and blocky, that's nice. If it's horizontal like this, turn it. Please, make it bigger, make it readable. All right. If you want to put, you'll see this happens in a lot of games. They'll have sort of an iconic person, like one of the characters in your game will be on that spine, and sometimes all four spines or all four sides will have that same logo on it, or that same character or a different character on each one. Put your logo on all four sides. Don't get tricky. And there was a Renegade Games made a game called Covert. Local designer, great game. They got kind of tricky with, they wanted to do kind of a spot color, and so you can, if you saw it, it was like white, and then the logo was sort of shiny, and it glowed. If it was in the right position and the light was just right, and you kind of looked at it this way, it was a failure for that design, right? So make it bold, bright, interesting. See this wall, this study in brown and beige behind me? Ugh, right? Colorful. Color is the new black, you know? There's so many games, especially in the fantasy genre and the horror genre. They're this study in brown. You'd be amazed what just a little color will do to people to go, huh? All right? Go to stores. Look at every other game in the section that your game is going to live, or you hope it will live, and say, how is my game going to look in this mess? Okay? I get a lot of people coming in saying, I got a great game, would you buy some from me? And I will, and I'll pick it up, and I hate doing it. But I pick it up and I go like this, and before I even know what it's about, I say, sorry, because it's ugly. No one's going to pick it up. And I try to say, okay, I'm going to try to turn this into a teachable moment. Let's go over to the party game section. This is a party game. And look at all these bold blues and greens and logos and excitement and fun. And you have this. And I put it on there and say, I want you to, I'm sorry, got to be brutally honest here. Are you going to pick up your game amongst all these other ones? Remember, your game does not live with lights shining on it. It lives in a pile of other games, probably spine out. Okay? Assume the worst. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. And the worst is your game is spine out on the bottom shelf. That's a no man's land, right? So make it bold and interesting and inviting. And then when they pick it up and they turn it around, they can have a really good idea of what the game is about just by looking at the picture. And that can be something as simple as component shots, or some will do it like, so there's a lot of party games will do, I think, is it North Star does it with Say Anything and Wits and Wagers. Step 1, draw a card. Step 2, gather all your things. Dixit does it. Step 3, pick a card, You're teaching the game in 3 sentences. can you convey that? In the newspaper business, they call it above the fold. You know, if you get a newspaper, for those who still remember what newspapers are, right? You get it folded in half, and you unfold it. All the juicy stuff is above the fold because that's what you look at before you unfold it. You know, so make it all, you know, another marketing thing is the billboard 3-second rule. Billboards, you look at them for an average of 3 seconds. Did you know that? I knew that. All right. So when we would have a customer, or we have a client who was looking for a billboard design from us, we'd present the billboard design, and we would say, okay, here's your bill. Oh, my screenshot. I said, okay, here's your billboard. What'd you think? You know, we put it up for 3 seconds. I didn't get a chance to look at it. No, that's as much as your customer is going to look at it, right? So, you know, you want to catch the eye. They're browsing those shelves. Have them pop out. Okay, enough of that dead horse that I've beaten.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Shane Pelzel asked, how does back of the box work on smaller games, like a small deck or a pack of cards, right? So,
Right. My advice to Shane and to all of you who are making a card game and it's going to ship in a bicycle-sized box is to don't ship it in a bicycle-sized box. All right? If you look at some of the more popular card games out there, Sushi Go, and the ones that have sort of the worst is things like Sushi Go, Sleeping Queens, the Game Right games, and those are about that big, right? And those are kids' games generally, and so it's really easy to convey and convey the gist of the game. But if you have something like Fleet, Fleet is a game about fishing and haulers, fishing haulers, like you know, and you want to have the best fishing boat. It comes in a box this big. It's a really great card game, okay? But it's this big. If you spend the money and add a little bit of air to your box and put a nice little insert in there, one of those little Fantasy Flight inserts that just gives it, you know, you kind of lift everything up, have a nice bigger rule book. Everyone loves a bigger rule book. And you just put the deck of cards in the middle and you have a little more shelf space and you have a little more playground on the back of your box, your sales will go up. If you want to get that game as cheap as possible and you put it into a little box like this and you tuck it on the shelf, you know, here it is. All these games, and here's yours, right down here. It's not going to be seen. So if you do need to have that small thing, get it as, you know, if you can convey what your game is in a couple of components and point to those components in the copy. Don't give me 2 paragraphs about, you know, early on in the whaling days of yesteryear, blah, 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 da, 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 da. Don't sell me the theme. I get the theme. The front of the box tells me exactly what the theme is. The back of the box tells me what the game is. Okay? Hopefully that answered this question. Yes, ma'am.
So if they're standing vertically, you said turn it. Should some of the sides be for the vertical on the shelf and some of the sides be if you're going to lay it down?
Ah, okay. The question was, and I'll do the hello world. So if it's spine out like this, what if it's spine out like that, right? If some game store has stacked them like this, don't shop at that store. Go to a bookstore. Any bookstore you go to, who stacks the books like this unless it's like the new Harry Potter and they've got a stack of them on the floor, right? Like that. So no, don't worry about this. Don't worry about your game being displayed this way. It's either going to be spine out or it's going to be facing front out. Now, why do you want to have that spine or that logo on all 4 of your sides? Because you can't trust the consumers. You can generally trust the retailers, but the consumer is going to pick up your box and they're going to look at it and they're going to put it back exactly the way that the retailer doesn't want it put back, right? I mean, obviously, if you're in my store, you know, all the you know, they're facing this. You can read them this way, just like a library. All the fronts are on this side, except for that one that someone put out and put in like sideways and backwards, and you can still see the logo. That's important. Okay, how much time do I have left?
About 3 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, hopefully this was informative. Last minute questions. Yes. Yeah. I'll put you first.
going back to that more
more emerging market, the non-gamer?
Yes.
How often do folks come into your store and already know what game they're looking for?
Most of the time. So real quickly, my target markets, right? As you know, I want to have gamers, established gamers. My other target market is moms and families, grandmas and things like that. And my last target market is millennials, young adults, looking to get off the screens, right? My advertising is, I don't advertise to gamers, right? I don't advertise to gamers. Advertise to non-gamers, right? Because the gamers know that there's a game store here and they will seek me out, and if they go through the door, then it's my job to make sure they come in a second time. I advertise to moms, right? They're the smallest part of my pie, but they're the biggest part of my growth, okay? So, so did I answer your question? Sorry.
My question was, how often do they already know what game they're looking for?
So that bigger slice of the pie, the established gamers, they know what they're looking for usually. I have a very strong Facebook, Twitter presence, and all that kind of stuff. I am doing a lot of outbound stuff. Today, the Fallout game came out, right? And everyone's like, Fallout sounds sweet. I gotta play it. Or a new Time Stories is out today, so they come in looking for that. So most of the time they have what they're looking for. So that's where. So if your first step is to get going, yeah, Board Game Geek is really good. I mean, that's your core people who want to spend money. Although the folks on Board Game Geek don't ever want to spend money. But most people going into a store go in to spend some money. So don't be afraid to sell them something that's of the right value. Yes.
So you had mentioned earlier one of your requirements to stock or want to stock a game is that you can get it when everyone else does. What advice would you give to people who have to fund it with?
Yes. Okay. So I'm glad you said that. So Kickstarter. What I'm hoping for, I have backed probably over 100 Kickstarter projects for the store itself. Okay. This is exactly what I'm expecting from Kickstarter. I want to have the same game with the same stretch goals, being able to sell at the same price, and it ships to me at the same time as everybody else. If you can do that for me, I will back your game in a heartbeat. All right. Cool Mini has really seen the light on this. Cool Mini or not, they now have these programs where I am allowed to have everything and I can sell it on that day. The new Ice and Fire miniatures game, the Kingslayer edition, whatever it is. I can order that exact same thing, and I can advertise to my customers saying, I can get that for you at the same time with the same stuff and all the stretch goals at the same price. And oh, by the way, I won't make you prepay, and you won't have to pay shipping when you get it through me. And everyone's happy. So I am tapping into those people who do not kickstart, and there's a lot of them. So I'm running out of time.
What was that? You said who does it really well?
Cool Mini. Cool Mini or not? CMON. Last question. Who's got my last question? Yes, sir.
You said several things about the group of game designers here in Madison.
Yes. A motley crew.
Yes, they are. Is there a quantifiable boost to sales for having demos in store, playtesting in store, things like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those who are game designers in the area tend to be more active customers of mine. They tend to be more active in the community, and so they bring their own business in. And you know, some people will just, like, for example, if I've got a customer who has a game they're working and they do a Kickstarter, they can back it through me, preferably. But some of them want to back that designer directly, and I get that. And I'm not selfish enough to not understand that. Right? So yeah, I'd like your money, but I want him to be successful, because if he's successful, then I'm going to sell more of his game later on. Long tail sales. Okay? Look it up, Google it, long tail. I'm looking for that long tail. The longer the tail, the more money we all make. Profit. Okay. Hopefully this was informative. I welcome you, invite you all to go visit the store. I actually have to go pick up my kids from school, so I won't be there this evening, but I should be there at some point. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.